The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Sewagude Close, Lukulinanganda, Machindye, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kiza Besije every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays, 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays, 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers, and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
So, let him be assimilated.
Good evening, Uganda. The conversation has already started right here as we are waiting to welcome you to this edition of the Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. Today is the 30th day of September. The year is 2024. That means we are starting a new and last cycle of this particular year. So the last 3 months, that's October, November, and December. In case there are some goals that you set for yourself, it's now time to be looking at some of the indicators. Where are you at? How do you really quantify some of the goals that you had set for yourself? Because we are coming to the end of another cycle. That means we are entering into another season. And remember, we're entering a political season come 2025. But of course, I welcome you to this edition of the Hotline Show. It happens every Monday. We start at 7 up to 9 p.m. having conversations that we believe will make Uganda a better place. We do not raise these issues just to scorn and ridicule. I'll always repeat that. We don't scorn at anybody, government or people or entities. No, we are trying to have constructive dialogue. And in this dialogue, we hope that one or two things can actually change and make Uganda a better place. Last week on Saturday, we had the Uganda Law Society vote for its president for this particular season. And of course, it has been a tight competition here and there, and many people have been speaking a lot of things because of the self-proclaimed rebel lawyer, that is Counsel Semakadde. Counsel Semakadde was able to be voted as the president of the Uganda Law Society, and many people have been speaking a lot of things. Is this a symbol of something that is big? Semakadde has promised a couple of things. Are they actually things that we can achieve? Are they achievable? He promised to rethink the positions of Attorney General, the Chief Justice. What does this really come about? What are some of the results that will come from that particular experience? And does he have the mandate to actually do this? And what does this body, the Uganda Law Society, what is the vision now as we're speaking? Is there something that we're going to change? And of course, how do we promote good governance at the end of the day through Counsel Semakadde? We'll be talking about that. But before we even delve into that conversation, a lot of insecurity continues in the country. Unfortunately so, we request that you become vigilant. Be very vigilant with your neighbors, because the increasing rate of burglary, of people who are killed and robbed from, it's continuing to increase literally each and every day. So we request that you be very, very vigilant as you continue, as you move, as you leave for your homes, as you go to your workspaces. Really be vigilant. If you can walk in groups, it's very, very advisable because the high rate of criminality is continuing in the country. What is bringing about this? Maybe I'll ask my panelists here and there to really find a solution for this problem that is ever increasing. Sometimes we find the police fighting, but then some other times we also find these issues coming out here and there. Ladies and gentlemen, feel free to send me your message, your question, any comment on the topical discussion of the day. In case you have any submission to make, we are streaming live on YouTube, but also on Facebook at The Alternative Uganda, then at Digitalk TV. You can find us there. We're also on TikTok, on Instagram, still at The Alternative Uganda, and at Digitalk TV. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga, and I'm always here to have this conversation. As every Monday, I'm already joined by the Executive Director for the Center for African Affairs and Diplomatic Studies, CAADS. His name is Honorable Kakoza. You're welcome. Kazooba. Sorry, Charles Kazooba. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Karuhanga.
Okay. I'm going to give you time to give us your opening remarks, but I've also been joined by the Director, NRM External Affairs. He is a retired Major, Honorable Pollar Awich. He's also a senior lawyer, by the way.
A member of Uganda Law Society.
Yeah, okay. A senior
And
lawyer.
a voter.
Oh, did you vote, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
I even still have it depending.
Wow. So there is no actually voting again. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. We are going to be joined by Joseph Ochieno from the Uganda People's Congress, but later on as the show continues. But before we delve into that conversation, let me first welcome you, sir, and just request you to give us your opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Karuhanga and Digital TV. My week has not been a happy one because of about 3 incidents.
Okay.
The woman that was killed on Northern Bypass, that picture has refused to get out of my head. Keep imagining myself, why would somebody kill such an innocent soul? Why? Really? Even if you want to rob some money from somebody, why don't you take whatever she has and leave her with her life? Terrible. I hope that police can bring to book the suspects and then those suspects face the long arm of the law.
Justice.
Yes.
Yeah, the lady you're talking about is called Agnes Nantongo.
Yes.
Yeah, just to put
Terrible, terrible. But also we should be very careful when you are moving. You keep alert. Keep alert. You remember when the Bishop Zach Negingia was hit?
Yes.
And it was in the morning. It's as if nobody saw anything. The man could have died there.
Yes, that's very true.
So we have to be very careful. Me, I even stopped jogging by the. I used to jog in the morning. But on 2 occasions, guys I suspect to be thugs told me that they had seen me running in the morning and on a number of occasions. I just stopped. It was like, might be a message. So I would rather do other exercise, walk during the day. If the place is safe, then I can run in the evening. But these days I do ride a bicycle, so it is much better.
Yes, sir.
Then the death of
Napito, yeah, I wanted us to talk about that.
Napito Komalait, our very senior journalist and politician. I met him severally when he was press secretary to the president. Very humble man, very decent, straight, and he just left State House, I think, because of his ways of looking at the world. These things of backstabbing, intrigue.
You don't know about his credibility.
So when he went to Nile Breweries, there's a time when I was launching my organization and I reached out to him. He really gave me some little support, what he could. Yeah, he gave me some drinks. And We didn't even meet. I just sent him a WhatsApp message and said, okay, you go and see this person. This person will help you. But I was taken aback when some months I started seeing him back on TV, talking.
Even on radio.
Even talking
he would be there
politics.
too.
So I kept asking, is this man wanting to come back to parliament or what? But, and meeting was disrupted by police. Police said that they had information that there were ADF people in the area. So for protection, they said they had to halt the meeting. But today, the legal advisor of the group, Honorable Dr. Ambide, has written to the IGP giving a schedule of all the consultations that will be happening until December, so that they work closely with police. I think that was a smart move to do.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. That is Charles Kazooba, the Executive Director for the Center for African Affairs and Diplomatic Studies. He talks about the comrade who has just passed on. It's really, really sad, very, very sad for Napito. He's a knowledgeable gentleman, a journalist, but also a politician. But one thing that stands out, where everybody's talking about, it's his credibility, his willingness to lose anything as long as he stays with his legacy. So, Napito has died a great man, has died a man that is going to be remembered, and a man who, in such a time, is actually being that credible.
Well, I join my colleague Charles in the sadness that he has mentioned, all the death, Napito and the ladies.
Yeah.
Maybe Napito died natural causes, but I want to draw my attention to the forced removal of life from on this woman.
Agnes.
And I want to say...
Sorry, before you leave that, did you know Napito on a personal basis? Or
not really on a personal basis. But I knew him, he knew me.
Oh, okay.
He knew me, I knew him, but we are not that close.
Oh, okay.
But
on the issue of Nantongo Agnes.
What I want to add is that let's be careful, because some of these people who kill others, they really kill under the influence of very insane mind. Others have taken drugs. Because under normal circumstances, you really feel bad to remove lives. Even for us in the army,
yes,
you really kill somebody you are not seeing. And that is why we believe in the army that an enemy that is disabled, who is not killing you, even a sick enemy, or an injured enemy, or a prisoner of war, you don't even kill. Now, these guys who kill, in most cases, they are of unsound mind. They are completely intoxicated. So they don't feel the pain. So let's be careful, because by the time he's picking an instrument to hit you, he doesn't care.
Or he has been also pushed to a certain wall that has brought that
even if he was pushed,
passion.
if he had a sane mind, he wouldn't do it. If he becomes, say, pushed by economic circumstances, for example, and becomes a vagabond, it is compounded with drug. So be very, very careful, because this one can hurt you, because it's not in his mind. He doesn't care. So I wanted to comment that. Then the other thing is that my week was that we did party work. And I like to draw this attention because I brought out it brings out the element of how comes NRM does mobilization and police interfere with the other parties. No, for us, in the case of Lira, we went to Lira Hotel and we were in a room. So we are not in conflict with any law. We were in a room, we gathered the people we identified, we talked to them, and we left. In another place, in Ambiesu, in Kwania district, we gathered the selected people, especially wanted people who are crying about fish landing, I mean the army operations in the water, and then wetland conflicts with the government. Those ones we also brought them, we sat down, nobody was even standing. And we called that a baraza, from a Swahili word meaning a meeting, you sit down and talk. So I just wanted to draw these methods of work so that they said that to show clearly we are not in conflict with the law. So we divided ourselves into two teams. One team went to Lango, one team went to Busoga, and we did it successfully. Before I take leave of that, I also noticed a phenomenon where somebody can do injustice lawfully. He's doing injustice but using the law.
Yes.
For example, you find a district, this was a cry from the people in Kwania. Majority of the councillors are UPC. Now when they get to the district, these councillors appoint public service and district service commission to do recruitment. And they also appoint their people because they have the majority.
Yeah.
So when it comes to recruitment, they recruit on the UPC.
Oh.
Now, if you see the trend, everything is lawful. The councillors are elected, the appointment of public service is lawful, and the recruitment is apparently lawful, but they are now selecting their people. So you can see that it is a lawful injustice, which is very bad. And I told them that please be careful to use the law to cause injustice. Because for us in NRM, for example, we say PDM, don't segregate. Whether it's UPC or NRM, give people.
I was going to come there because now the same issue you're trying to accuse them of is something that they have accused you
No,
of.
for us PDM, if somebody is
I know cases where money of a myoga, I'm not going to talk about PDM, but a myoga was being given out in Nansana in the NRM office.
That is wrong.
I've given you a place. You can even go. You can even go there.
I would intervene. So now this is lawful.
But it
injustice.
did happen.
Now, I told them that is wrong because as a party and a majority in parliament, if we found that mischief, we can amend the law. Because what was the position of the law before? At the beginning, the law had centralized recruitment. And there was a complaint that because it is centralized in Kampala, the public service was recruiting people from one corner of the country. So the law was made to say, do it on your own. Now, you're given the law, you have been the one who was complaining the other time. For example, saying in Kampala they are recruiting Banyankole. Now we give it to you in Langis, and again, you cause
And
injustice.
one would say, isn't that a people problem like us? I don't think it's anybody's
Can I
problem.
flow and then
Yeah, please do, yes.
Then I wanted to do this, that say, the law, because there was an apparent injustice in the center, the law was amended to say, let us decentralize. And once it is in your hand, you are really, again, starting to discriminate. I don't know whether it is in human nature or what, because do you know why Freetown is called Freetown in Liberia? Freetown is called Freetown because it was decided that slaves in America be brought back to Africa. And when they were bringing them back, they chose the town and said, this is Freetown.
Yes.
Did you know that the slaves who came back, again, they ended up enslaving the Africans they found here? They were educated, they were exposed, and they had money. Remember, Liberia was using US dollars.
Yes.
So the guys ended up enslaving their friends. City, human, you were just freed from slavery. You are brought to Freetown, and you reaching Freetown, you are enslaving your Africans. So this was a very serious situation we found, that you complain in the center people were recruiting Banyankole. The thing were given to you in your district, you are discriminated.
No, because I'm now,
Why?
I personally think that this is a people problem. Us, because even when you go and meet people who are responsible in certain designations or regions, they are also kings in those regions. So it is them, and that's why we've been seeing that pattern, that when this government leaves, they say the Acholi were the problems. When this was the Langi were the problems, now the Banyankole are the problem. So we want to say it's a people problem.
That injustice can be done
legally,
even lawfully, legally. Okay, somebody causes injustice to others using the law, and it is wrong. It is bad, and I call upon whoever is involved in that, including our NRM, to say no, it is not a good thing. So that was my week.
Okay, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this gentleman is called Honorable Pollar Awich, retired major. He is the director for the NRM External Affairs. I'm going to come to you. Earlier this week, President Museveni sacked some members in the KCCA following the Kitezi incident, landfill incident. And I remember you were here advocating for such a thing. And among the people who were sacked is the executive director, Dorothy Kisaka, and her deputy, Ingenia Luyimbazi. Then also the director for public health, that is Daniel Okello. All of them were sacked after the incident that happened in Kitezi, where a couple of people, more than 30 people, lost their lives and were buried in garbage. And of course, you know what happened in that particular regard. So the president has officially come out to sack these 3 people. I want to ask Charles, what do you think about the president's move of sacking these individuals?
My position.
I wish you to ask me the same question.
Of course, sir.
My position was, and still is, that the leadership of KCCA should be prosecuted.
I know many people are calling for the same.
Not just sacking, but I read the president's letter, and he was particularly specific. I think he didn't want to rush into the details of prosecution, but he asked the CID to commence investigations against these 3 individuals. But it is not just these 3 individuals. I also want to see Lukwago,
the Lord Mayor?
Yes, as part of this group. Yes.
But does Lukwago have power really in the city?
Then why can't he stay home? Because that is wasting taxpayers' money.
Was it his own making?
You see, politically, do you know why we choose Museveni on each and everything? Because he's in charge of this country politically. Should anything happen, whether in Gulu, Nebi, or anywhere, we blame him.
Because he's in the office.
Now, he will not turn around and say, guys, I wasn't in charge of that particular area. You ask the RDC in that area. No. Lukwago should take responsibility, just like these other 3 are going to shoulder responsibility. And it should not just be Chitezi. Actually, we should have a commission of inquiry into all the deficiencies within KCCA, so that we find a lasting solution. Do we need another city, for instance? Has this one failed? What is happening with the management? Why should we have these ministers? And things have broken down. The system has broken down. I saw Chofa Togaye also blaming the executive director. He was also dancing on her grave. You understand? But he's also a minister.
For Kampala,
The whole of this group, nobody should be spared. Nobody.
Apart from Lukwago.
No. Let me tell
Because
you.
I remember one time, just to interrupt you, the former director, that was Jennifer Musisi, she said without even fear of contradiction that, yeah, now Lord Mayor is just there on a ceremonial basis, just to go and, you know, speak on events. But
So
he doesn't have any power.
why is he taking our money then? Why are we paying him? He should stay home. Yes. Let him stay home if he's not doing anything. It is as simple. And why does he want to come back even? Because if there is no job for you to do, and the taxpayer is suffering to pay you, you stay home then. So we have dealt with the technical team. Of course, not sufficiently, but we hope that prosecution should extend it to them, let them be tried, because people died. People lost their lives, for heaven's sake. And we can't just walk around as if nothing happened.
But comment on the action of Mr. Museveni to actually really sack these people, because you didn't see that coming, in fact.
Which one? The one
sacking of these individuals themselves, because you're looking at what he has not done yet, which is the prosecution. I wanted you to appreciate the decision he has made.
The issues.
Yes, sir.
By the way, the main thing that has led to Chisaka's sacking is the same that led to Jennifer Musisi's sacking. Political support in Kampala has gone down for NRM. Everybody has been complaining about Chisaka. Work is not being done. Infrastructure has broken down. So if even senior NRM cadres are complaining about her, I watched Ofono Pondo the other day, also blaming her for the problems, for the challenges in Kampala. Okay. So we are going to 2026 elections. And of course, NRM wants to regain the lost support. And unfortunately, these two ladies have contributed partly to the loss of support for NRM in the Kampala Metropolitan. Beginning with Jennifer. Jennifer decided to deliver, not minding about the politics. And that is bad, by the way.
In this country?
No, even when you are studying, they will tell you, whatever you do, you should be mindful of the politics. So don't just think of your work. Always be mindful of the prevailing politics. So Jennifer Musisi was not mindful. She got sacked. And by the way, I don't think she will be spared at some point, because there are so many reports, I think, in Parliament which implicate her. And at some point, if government changes, they might invite her for prosecution.
Oh, okay.
So the same story with Chisaka. The Chitezi was the last nail in the coffin. It was unbearable. Because how do you even explain that?
Okay.
And information is put on table that these guys were even aware.
Did you listen to one of the reactions as you conclude, the reactions of the people who were sacked, especially near Luyimbazi?
For Luyimbazi may even have no time to listen to that man. The man was sacked from UNRWA. I even don't know how we ended up in KCC.
He's like, he's not the only corrupt individual. Why are they looking at them alone? They should, if we are getting corruption, let's fight everybody.
And that is what I'm telling you.
What is this culture that we have now?
It should not stop at sacking. These guys must face the law.
Because
they should be prosecuted.
I feel some people believe that the corruption is too big, so you're just picking out people. So it's not actually
which picking out people.
Let me come to him.
Over 30 people lost their lives due to criminal negligence.
And that's what I want to ask Luyimbazi deep down. How do you feel? There are people who are dead and you're trying to condone it and defend it. Sir, what do you think about your chairperson's decision to sack these 3 members from their job following the incident in Kitezi?
President Museveni did a wonderful thing. And that action of President Museveni speaks volumes about President Museveni. Why? He's a steady person.
Yeah.
He takes his time. He doesn't rush. I have said it here, and I said it in some other fora, maybe with my Congress brother there. I had said that incident deserved serious reprimand. Somebody must be made to answer. I said it, and I said it that it's a question of time. But I know President Museveni will not rush with his decision. He had to study the facts and get a clear basis of action. Sometimes he can forgive, but he studies and he knows it. For example, even this claim when he said that Noop had stolen him, or stolen us, he really took time to study. The wave area where Noop was in total control, in that theater, Noop did whatever they wanted, but it took time. The only difference here is that it did not reprimand or punish those who should have avoided that. Because President Museveni knows that you can't punish everybody at all times, especially in an election where it has happened, but you have also won. So if you have to keep penalizing everybody, you'd finish everybody. So here, I had said it here, and I'd said it somewhere, that somebody has to be punished, and I knew he would. So that tells us the person in Museveni, the patience that it takes, how it takes to get facts for a decision to act. But ideally, these three people should have resigned. I know the congressman would have said that in other jurisdictions, these people should have resigned. They shouldn't even have waited. But you can see how stone-hearted that even this engineer could even still argue that is not. So his defense for his corruption is that he's not alone. Is that a defense? I wonder what kind of defense is that. He needs to put it in courts of law. That I have a defense, my lord. My lord, my defense before this honorable court is that there are many other corrupt people. Why look at me alone? That is being silly. That is being silly. So that is his wonderful defense that he even feels he should put it in the courts of law. So at least I'm vindicated that I had promised that government would act, because I told people that this government is a government of my party. My party is the principal. Government is a mere agent. It is us, the party, who went to the people with a manifesto and a flag bearer. People voted for us. After voting for us, we formed the government. Now, if this government doesn't perform, it's just a mere agent. They look for us. 2026, we're back to Andachi. They look at us. They won't look at the district executive secretary or chief executive or even the permanent secretary of local government who failed to provide PDN. The PS will say, I'm a civil servant, I don't know what you're talking about. And yet, is the agent we put in the resources of PDN to give to the people.
Implement, yeah.
So it worries us as a party that we cannot have a social contract with the people that we are going to protect lives and property, and lives is lost like that in the hand of an agent who is given a job by the government which is our agent of the party, because the government never won election. It is us, the party, who won the election. Why and how did we win it? We marketed our manifesto. So people voted on a social contract based on the manifesto we gave.
Yes.
So I am happy that the president, being the head of government, the executive, acted, and had promised that he would act.
Okay. We've been joined by Honorable Joseph Ochieno, but before I welcome him, let me first conclude with you, sir. People want more blood. You've heard him. He says this is not enough. They want these people prosecuted. And this has been a trajectory for most of the decisions that are made by the president. Sometimes they can get the corrupt, but they don't get the loot itself. And Ugandans are interested in the loot. So this time around, yes, they've been sacked, but there's need for more. Do you think we can achieve this, the prosecution? You're a lawyer.
We can achieve that if we investigate and find where they're culpable. Unfortunately, I didn't read the president's letter, but it seems to indicate that the president indicated they should be investigated. I also had rumors that their accounts were frozen.
No.
Yes.
Accounts were frozen. If accounts were frozen, then that is good enough. I'm also told the ED, on the day of handing over, arrogantly came in a Mercedes-Benz of hundreds of millions, and gave away the official car and smartly drove away in a Mercedes-Benz. How would an ordinary Ugandan pass by that Benz? See, he arrogantly came with a Mercedes-Benz of hundreds of millions. Yesterday, somebody showed me a Benz like that in Entebbe, that she came in a car like that. Car, you know, ordinary Ugandan, you can't even with, I know she was paid a lot of money, but even if she had saved all her money in that salary, you can't buy that Benz. So this amounts to impunity. So if it is true, I didn't read that letter that the president indicated, then there is a need to, even without the president writing, personally, if you sought my opinion, my opinion is that I agree with my brother, they should be investigated and prosecuted, I agree. But if the president has already written, then it makes our wishes even much easier on top of the prosecution. I agree with even casting the net wider. Only that on the issue of Lukwago, if I was to be the devil advocate, I think Lukwago is saying, gentlemen, I have always asked to be allowed to do my work. I have not done it. Now you see what is happening.
And Lukwago was the first whistleblower of the Kitezi issue.
So if I was to be a devil advocate, I think that is what Lukwago is saying. Saying you denied me that. If I was responsible, if you didn't remove the power of what I should do, this shouldn't have happened. So I don't know, but I need to study the facts. But at least for once, if I was to be the devil advocate, I think that is what Lukwago is saying.
You're being the angel's advocate. You're not being the devil's advocate, sir.
Because I'm standing the other side. I think that is what Lukwago is saying. Lukwago is saying, you remove the power from me, the ED or whoever did it, now I don't have the power. If I had that power, this wouldn't have happened.
Thank you so much, Honorable Pollar. Honorable Ochieno, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
He has mentioned a couple of Benzes here and there. And have you heard of the Benzes that are around Parliament? I saw the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker bringing, they were in billions, I think. Each Benz was costing around a couple of billions here and there. And later on, there was another Range Rover Sport that was just a gift and a donation. But that was just for people to listen. You're welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm sorry for coming slightly late, but I am lightened up by the fact that my brother from Chadondo Road is being an angel's advocate. So that is progress. Because I was going to be very annoyed because I came late for two reasons. One, because I couldn't drive beyond Chadondo Road. And so for about 37 minutes, I was in the same sort of mini spot. I jumped beyond his office. I nearly thought of branching off. And so the headlines would say, there he goes others. There he joins others. So it would be a very nice headline.
That is what we always saying, Joseph.
For Crusader.
That you politicians in different political parties, you should do.
I am still talking.
And meet over coffee.
I meet with people over coffee, and I don't think there is any actually politician in this country, and I hope Mr. Which is Chairman learns from Ochieno of UPC. I am very collegiate. I meet with the leaders from across the political divide. In fact, in any case, I'm encouraging that this conversation of meeting over coffees and others should be encouraged. But it should not be a co-option, and should not be a coercion, and should not be underhand. I relate with Comrade Wich very well. We have a very formal, sociable, official and unofficial conversations, but very, very clearly and agree to disagree, including this kind of platforms. In fact, I must say, before I could conclude it to his credit, I was now saying that, I was nearly saying that, well, let me go and instruct the security guards that this is the UPC camp, make sure you look after it, I'm on my way because you've messed up the whole thing. And of course, genuinely they would do it.
Yes.
And just before that, I informed your producers about my being stuck and the Comrade Awich. I was trying to embarrass him, but he courteously responds by saying, you know, if you're near there, make sure you take your car there and speak to somebody to do so. So that is basically as a matter of fact. So he did, but by then I already parked my car much farther ahead. Okay. But partly because I was going for a small medical emergency, an appointment at 5 o'clock, and I was chock-a-blocked. Okay. I was delighted that we were able to resolve it quicker, not because I was being given special treatment, but genuinely they recognized the fact that I had this other commitment here, so hence my coming here slightly later. But a future UPC government, particularly UPC government that actually administers Kampala, or a government, regardless of whoever is managing Kampala, would allow the mayors and administration of Kampala to do their work so that we don't have the traffic mess in Kampala, so that we don't have the infrastructure and planning mess that we have, so that you create the mess in which we are. I must say this actually, that had it actually not been for border, that took me, and Kuruch also partly suggested that, took me to my other appointment and brought me here, I would not simply have made it. Strangely enough, of course, man, there's a huge amount of traffic in Kampala. But when you look at the whole thing, you quite clearly wonder, why did they break the UPC programs, the UPC planning for Kampala? But that's a slightly different topic. But I was one of those people who, on the, back to the Kitezi thing.
Before you enter the Kitezi issue, I just wanted to take a minute or two to comment on Honorable Onapito, Ekomoloit, who passed on last week. Did you meet him, or just a word or two about, this gentleman?
I knew Ona, as most people called him. I knew him, and of course he peaked in the media when I was in London, and he peaked in the media when we always wanted to make sure that our stories hit the headlines here in Kampala. And also at the same time, those are times when the Analyst thing was still on, so newspaper headlines were very important for us in exile. Don't forget, actually, one of the things was that for the people, newspaper, the UPC mouthpiece, the paper could be published and it takes you 2 weeks because I'd go to be airlifted, and then you go to go and pick it from a particular cycle, then go through the whole thing and then share. So it was that. So the owners were the people, the journalists, whose bylines you wanted to read, and so for that reason, I wanted to say at a video, and I may say so at part of his journey back to the resting place. I should have been in the spaces around his place yesterday and today. I've not been able to. But one of the things to say is that when indeed he went in as Mr. Museveni's press secretary, assistant press secretary, I was jealous, Kumrevich, because I said this is a very fantastic journalist, and now he's going to the NRA side, officially, we're in trouble. So no, a fantastic guy. Happens to have gone to Toro College. He was a head prefect in Toro College, although I don't have an association with Toro College, but it's basically my local Padola National College, Toro College. Okay. And everyone else has been very fond of it. And part of what Charles is saying, it's actually nice to see and to hear about people who, regardless of their political affiliations, excel in their trades, excel in their jobs. And many people, the generation before yours, went to journalism and went to the media, partly because of the drives and motivations by the Onapitos, the Onyango Boys, and the Kodran Kutus et al. And the Wafulu Gutus. I was off the other day at different media houses. Those guys inspired journalism in this country at a very difficult time, at a very analog time. But also they were able to navigate, also again at a particular time when the media was fairly hushed up. If you hear some of their stories, including how they navigated reporting in northern Uganda, I think there's a story that I got about his comments about covering war in Rwanda. At the same time, he also giving his personal experience as a Mteso person who thought and who knew and was factually talk about what some of the NRA guys did in Teso apparently, And there's something to do with another colleague of his, and this man Kunda, and Kunda protests. I'm sure that thing was doing the social rounds, was a fact, and I know some of those stories.
Okay.
So, no, these guys did excellent work at a very difficult time.
Okay.
My worry, since you raised it, is that the media is now quite awash. The media with in terms of numbers, media houses are many, televisions, radios, newspapers. But at the same time, I'm not quite sure whether you can continuously count, if you could count 4 of these guys at the time, whether you can now count 10 of the generations of Napitos of today,
Charles Onyango boys.
whom we are looking up to in the media.
Yes.
I am very particularly concerned that there are not many.
Yes.
And I don't want to start counting 1 or 2, 3 people because I might get stuck at 4 and I may not go through those numbers.
Okay, sir.
So for that, maybe it's a lesson. And so, in a way, it's a sad loss, really.
All right.
Yeah.
The gentleman you've been seeing is Onapito, the one who has been on your screen. Is the one that we are talking about, that gentleman right here. But let's delve into the conversation of Kitezi. Mr. Museveni sacked 3 people following that landfill. What do you think about Mr. Museveni's decision?
It was a sacking too late. You know, he shouldn't have really waited for months. The right thing that a president should have done was, as Comrade Rich rightly says, if people are not, offering their resignations, the day of the event, and possibly at worst the following day, then they should be asked to resign maybe the following day. In any case, part of my other criticism is that apart from that, we haven't had a national day of mourning for Kitezi, because Kitezi is historically a terrible one, where people die, over rubbish. Rubbish heap kills people. So it's long overdue, but he could say he did the right thing. Of course, we expected him to do, but in any case, I think he needed to respond to some of our callings. I think all of us have been saying that, well, heads needed to roll. So it's 3 heads too late. Number 2, on my good friend Elias Lukwago, I have been generally critical, saying that every aspect, whether it's the elected authorities, these appointees, and then the ministerial guys, all should take responsibility. I had actually admitted that actually Arias was amongst the earliest people to have whistleblowed. How they should have continued with this focus of their position as elected representatives with hands tied, I don't know. But I think there's actually a case to suggest that maybe this Kitezi thing should compel a review in the public opinion, and a review committee with Mr. Museveni to review whether or not the current setup is sustainable, that we have an elected mayor of a city, and then we go ahead and put some dubious group of executive director in the team, number 1. And number 2, that beyond those, then we go ahead and put ministers, and apparently, including 2 ministers, apparently. I actually didn't know there were 2. So 2 ministers for Kampala. All these are a huge amount of wasting of public resources. All these are actually very complicated bureaucracies. And 3, if NRA wants to claim credit, basically as they claim to be revolutionary. I don't agree with the revolutionary political party. In the revolutionary political parties, they should actually be very much committed to the democratic process. And so if one of the credits that you can want to claim is that you introduced the direct elections, say for mayorship and local councils, then I think you should allow those ones to prevail. And once in a while, you should allow, even if it's Kampala that is not directly under your control, you should allow the districts and municipalities and cities that don't have that don't support you. That's what democracy is. To prevail. In any case, at the end of the day, government still has Ministry of Local Government. Ideally, should be really the minister responsible for cities and municipalities. They'll still have the mandate, the rights to guide and manage these local authorities directly. So this business of wanting to win 100% is as bad as people who don't like to lose. Like I know some of you, Museveni is a very bad loser. So he lost but never accepted, never conceded. So we should have good winners and good losers. So Kitezi should really be a wake-up call that this governance structure, for Kampala City Council should be reviewed and power should be returned to Lukwago. Lukwago should be provided, and that's what happens. all major capital cities, including London and others. And actually beyond London as a city, the local councils beyond London, which should not be the Wakisos of this world, they have their spaces to govern.
Okay.
But central government still continuously goes and controls, but controls in the sense that, well, if you breach, particular regulations, you get penalties.
Okay.
And if you get penalties, central government will make sure that the citizens know that you're doing, you're not doing what it's supposed to do, and the electors will punish you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Let's
go for a break. Let's go for a break. Maybe we'll clarify later on. You're still watching the Hotline Show. We have 1 minute to 8 p.m. Let's go for a short commercial break. When we come back, we start the conversation of the Uganda Law Society, the rise of Isaac Semakade to the helm of presidency for this society. What does that mean? And of course, how do these lawyers help in creating good governance for Uganda? My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. Let's go for a short commercial break.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Sewagude Close, Lukulinanganda, Machindye, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kiza Besije every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays, 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays, 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers, and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are into the second and final hour of this show. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. I'm still with Honorable Pollar Awich, who is the Director External Affairs at the National Resistance Movement. Then I'm with Charles Kazooba, the Executive Director for the Center for African Affairs and Diplomatic Studies. And of course, last but definitely not least, Ochieno Joseph, Honorable Ochieno Joseph from the Uganda People's Congress. Now I want us to delve into a conversation, but before we delve into that, Kamoga Franklin Gooding, thank you so much for watching. Mutale Farouk Hussein, you are watching. Thank you so much. Continue sending those messages. And I would prefer that you send them on our social media platforms at Digitalk TV at The Alternative Uganda. I'll be able to read these messages subsequently as we continue with the program. Last week, we had a new president voted for the Uganda Law Society, and that is Council Isaac Semakade, the self-proclaimed rebel. And he has come at a time when many people are saying a lot of things. What does this mean for Uganda today? What does this mean for Uganda Law Society? And generally, the legislative arm of this particular government, or judiciary really, what does this look like, especially for Council Isaac Semakade? But before I delve in that conversation, I have a gentleman here who said he's part of the Uganda Law Society. Honorable Awich, I just want you to paint for us a picture for an ordinary Ugandan, what the Uganda Law Society is, what does it symbolize, and what does it mean for someone to become a president of such a society? Because most people have received this information with excitement, but we really don't know what it really means to us, the last person on ground, and to the lawyers themselves.
Yeah, thank you. It is true, I'm a member of Uganda Law Society, and I did vote on Saturday. I still have my fingers here, because whenever you voted, they would mark your fingers. So I have my fingers here, which is showing mark of voting. So I voted. I am a practicing advocate. I'm a lawyer, I practice. I have the practicing certificate up to date, because you can't vote if you don't have up to date practicing certificate.
You have to be an advocate. That
You have
means.
to be an advocate. Now, Uganda Law Society is a society, as you hear. It is a group of advocates in Uganda. Now, they are established under a law,
Yes, sir.
an act of parliament, Uganda Society Act, Law Society Act
Yes.
of 1956. It is an old law. It is in 1956. At least the copy I looked at, unless it was a wrong citation, but it's that. It's an old thing,
Yes.
which is intended to bring together lawyers who are in practice. And therefore it brings all lawyers, young and old, whether Professor Sempewa or even those who are getting enrolled to this year, and once enrolled, they get a practicing certificate, they qualify. So that is the Uganda Law Society. Now, look, you under that act, they're supposed to, or we are supposed to have an executive. Under the act, the executive, which comprises the president, is supposed to run the association on behalf of the members. So if you're an advocate in Arua, you have elected the executive, and you leave the executive to do things on your behalf, except roles prescribed by the law, like annual general assembly. There are some decisions which are supposed to be taken by annual general assembly, which we do. So I believe I've answered the question of what is Uganda Law Society.
Yes. What does it mean for someone to rise to presidency of this particular law? You've hinted on it, what he does, but what does it mean really generally? What power does this gentleman hold?
The power of President of Law Society is there, is provided for under the Act. First of all, I said it does things for on behalf of the members.
The members, the lawyers, the advocates.
If you are an advocate in Arua, so you don't have time to come to rule, to administer the affairs of the law society. But the roles are clear. For example, being the president is supposed to enforce the roles provided for under the Act. One of them is that it does provide standards of conduct of learning, conduct and learning, how lawyers should behave, and how lawyers should continue in their further education. The other thing is that it facilitates the acquisition of legal knowledge. That is also a separate role. The other role is that it represents and protects the members. For example, you have had situations where some advocates are arrested when they're doing their professional work. Now it is the work of the executive, which is headed by the president, to protect such lawyers. It's also supposed to assist the public, in many ways. For example, part of it is that if there is a public outcry, for example, the Kitezi we are talking about, Law Society comes up to say, colleagues, this one is wrong and it is affecting the public. It also assists government, where they find government is being challenged here and there, whether it is in whatever law reform they come in, to assist government. Now, under those roles, the Act particularly gives the executive special roles that they should do. For example, under that, Law Society, the Uganda Law Society has formed what you call the rule of law department. There's a department called rule of law. Now this rule of law does policy research. This rule of law influences the rule of law by establishing a rule of law clubs. They're supposed to have rule of law clubs, say, at universities, in schools, and what clubs which are supposed to enforce rule of law. They even make publications. They print, for example, the state of human rights in the country. They can print it and say, as law society, this is what we know about the state of human rights in Uganda. Okay?
Yes.
I already said they support law revision.
Okay.
When you know there are obsolete laws, they're supposed to support it. They also fund proposals, for example, which raises money. For example, we use a lot of money. On Friday, there was a dinner. I mean, there was a cocktail. Live bands were there. It is a lot of, even rent hiring the place alone. It's a lot of venue. It's a lot of money.
Okay.
Yes. Just two more statements of, they make statements on position of law society. For example, if there is a topical issue in the country, they're supposed to come up and make a statement on behalf of law society. They also, they represent law society in many, for example, there are many bodies under the law where they call for specific professional representation. They want lawyers from the practice. So such, like for example, you have the judicial commission, which recruits judges. They say there should be a member from the bar, so they are the ones who send. For example, law council. You have law council. They say there should be a member from the bar. They send. They send many. I don't know whether KCCA they also are, but there are many bodies. I'm told there are about 48 bodies in Uganda by law, which needs representation. So it is this one we're supposed to send. And above all, they do a lot of legal aid and pro bono. Legal aid pro bono means they can take up a representation to represent you for free.
Yes.
So for free. So it does it. So you can see that under the Act, and which provides the roles, there's so many roles. And these roles is done by the president, because the law says the executive shall do the work on behalf of the members. So immediately we elect, you fall back into your law firm and do your law firm, knowing that there is a group of people who are mandated to do things on your behalf.
Lastly, do you think Council Semakade Isaac will be able to do these things that you have pointed out, you as an individual, and because now he's your president?
I mean, I don't doubt his intellectual capacity. But I think what brought some of us into questioning him was the methods he intended to do it. For example, he came out clearly saying he's going to use the method of banging the table. And you could see even the cartoons that came after his winning.
Yes.
Where, you know, he's standing on top of the table with a gown and a wig on the head, and he's quarreling with the judicial officers. You know, standing on top of the table in court. So what we were worried about was his methods of doing it. But his legal education, his intellect, I think he has a very brilliant academic background. So what our worries was, is that, is he going to do it that way, the banging the table approach? For him, he says it's not going to be conventional. So the way he portrayed it, we thought he would be quarreling with judicial officers, he would be quarreling with government, be quarreling with everybody.
Is that bad? Or it would be a good thing to achieve some of the goals that you want?
No, for us, we think that you can disagree with government or present your views firmly, confidently, but politely. For him, he said that is the conventional way. He wants it the other way around.
Decolonization.
And we thought he could not. Now, so if you am to answer the question whether he can do it, he can do all these things. But should he choose the other method?
Okay.
For example, if you stand on top of a table in a court, okay, in your gown and wig, the way it was portrayed in cartoon, definitely I don't think would go that far.
I think that was more of a symbol. I'm going to come back and ask you a couple of more questions, because there are some people who have formed something called the Uganda Bar Association. I don't know how legal and binding that could be. But also, you comment on what this gentleman symbolizes, but I'm going to ask you later. Let me come to you, Charles. Let me start from his conversation. He builds for us a good background. But then, why Semakade? Why the excitement, the public, interest in this particular individual? What do you think about him, but also what does he symbolize to you?
I'm going to juxtapose Mr. Semakade alongside Kazooba Bashir.
Basira, the journalist.
Yes.
Member of Parliament, I think, Kawempe South.
When he contested also for president of Uganda Journalists Association, I think the whole country was excited. Actually, that is what catapulted him to
Member of Parliament.
Member of Parliament. So he really talked a lot during his time, but he didn't do much. He did not. And some of these issues that hinder these guys from operating to the expectations of the members is because of the system we are operating in. You've seen also the medical doctors,
Yes.
especially during the time of Dr. Eboaro. He lost a kid recently.
I remember that.
Yes, he also contested under NRA.
Yes, yes.
Now, one thing that I have been observing in these professional associations, which are very good, by the way, for empowerment of professionals, is the infiltration. They have been infiltrated not only by government security agencies and NRM, but also by opposition. Because they presided over one of the elections at Uganda Journalists Association, and they observed a very funny scenario, that multiple agencies had representatives, but they would operate from the shadow. You wouldn't know if you're not in charge. But some of us got to know, and I can tell you that I blocked quite a number of people who were sent in by both opposition and NRM. Now, when such happens, expect little to be achieved in the area of professionalism. I'll give you some examples in Uganda Law Society. Oscar Chika, their legal advisor, NRM, was once president of the Law Society. Remy Kasule, judge, he was once president of...
Oscar Chika is also a judge.
He's now a judge.
Court of Appeal.
Can hear. Now, when you look at our latest example, Francis Jemara, these are very outstanding individuals. I've been reading what Francis Jemara did during his time. Quite a lot that was achieved. In fact, it is during his time that they influenced government to bring the administration of judiciary bill, and it passed as an act in 2020. That was a great achievement because it empowers the independence of the judiciary. You cannot talk of rule of law without focusing on the independence of the judiciary. But did you hear Jemara shouting on the streets? Very decent fellow. I think now he's in international arbitration. If you stick to your profession as a leader, of a professional association, there is a likelihood that you achieve a lot for your industry, for your members. But the moment you are representing certain interests, you will not do much, because you're going to clash with so many actors who are readying for you. I've told you, Kazooba excited so many people. Today, nothing really. He hasn't achieved anything. So, the most important thing is, what, for instance, we as Ugandans, do we want from these lawyers, the association? I have two examples. You know me, I always deal with ordinary people. Two ladies came to me on different occasions, and they needed help. They suffered domestic violence. In fact, one of them was as a result of a very bad marriage to a pastor. The pastor had become too powerful in the area that he had compromised even police and all security authorities in that area. So he said, I told the girl, please, I know you don't believe me, but I think this man can be dealt with. So we took her to one of those organizations that deal with domestic violence, and they contacted Uganda Law Society. We went there, they gave us lawyers. This man was so shocked, because he did expect the lady to reach that level. The girl was coming from a poor family. But when this guy was summoned, at first he even refused. He was summoned by Uganda Law Society. I was there. And they forced the man, that pastor, to give upkeep to the woman, monthly basis. That was an achievement, but by Uganda Law Society.
Yes.
Also, the other lady, the same thing. They also helped her. Me, as Charles Kazooba, I felt very happy that you have somebody that can help a vulnerable person without even asking for money. In fact, these ladies were even being given transport and some upkeep. You can imagine. So, when you have a strong and influential Uganda Law Society, it is also good for our democracy. Because they will check the excesses of government. Uganda Law Society sued the Attorney General regarding taxation of monies to judicial officers. They were arguing that, look, these people should not be paying tax. They should be exempted. And when you read the case, the Attorney General was also arguing, saying, but look, even the president pays, it is only the president that doesn't pay tax, because he's in the law. The law is very specific about him, saying, this one he will not pay tax. But for all other Ugandans, they should pay tax. And I think the case ended in favor of the Attorney General. But my argument is, when you have this kind of independent body that looks not just at their members, but the general interest. So when it comes to Semakade, I think the times have also changed. This laid-back approach, thinking the entire civil service structure, when you go through it, people no longer care about what is happening.
And that's why he wants to stand on the tables.
Me, and I even congratulated him and said, I think maybe we should begin thinking about this new breed of approach. This fighting, banging tables could probably work. I even saw him in one of the video clips. Guy we need.
Because what comment on him as a person, because many people believe that he represents them. He's more like the ordinary Ugandan on ground that you meet every
No,
day.
it's not like any ordinary Ugandan. Ugandans are angry. They are bitter. Certain things are not working out the way they should work out. So when you have a representative like
Society Council Isaac Semakade.
I think it's fantastic news. Fantastic news that an anti-establishment candidate won. It's uncomfortable. There's a video that did the rounds where I think he had a specific conversation with a group of ladies. And one of the comments that, that said, I saw many female lawyers and very many senior activists, including civil society, who are women, very much in support of his. But before I do that, just quickly, I know that Charles, to be fair to Charles, is not taking us back, but I'll make it in 30 seconds. Charles was questioning before we went to break on the question of where I was on the question of Kampala City Council. All I was saying, not necessarily that I want Ernest Lukwago to be re-elected. That would not be that would be a matter for the people of Kampala to do so. In any case, Arias is FDC and UPC. I want a UPC candidate to win Kampala City Council. But all I'm simply saying that power should be returning to the elected people, to elected officials, so that the council should be given the power and authority to run Kampala and to account for the people, citizens of Kampala who vote for them. And should not be an executive director who's wasting a lot of our money, many of them actually quite clearly stealing our money, or indeed to some kind of dubious ministers who are basically eating lots of our money. And if you see the amount of money that the ministers for Kampala and their ministries and departments and the officials and the executives, if you see the amount of money that is located to them, you know, to be more than the 4 billion that the other Kelus allegedly is alleged to have stolen. So basically, that's the fact. That's the point I was trying to make. But of course, if it's to see an election in which possibly there's a new UPC candidate, I don't mind my friend Arias winning. That should not be an issue for me. He's a campaigner. Has been campaigning around issues of equality and democracy, to the extent that the Attorney General, dressed up Akimbo, went and did the undoable and turned Munyonyo. General really should be the Attorney General for the Republic of Uganda. The Attorney General is a public servant, actually. Even it's a political point of Nyongo for his position, for his master. You know, you should have the decorum to behave better. So trial was the state. The person who was on trial was the judicial system in this country and not Semakade. Semakade is a manifestation of the mess in which we are. But also number two, one who I have said again and again and again, and Madam Camera Lady is watching. She's a fantastic journalist, but I want to tell her that actually, I hope she knows that many of the young people watching, that you know the two trades, the two professions will protect lives. You know, that's why I have very little respect for lawyers, for doctors who take to the bush to go and basically kill when they actually swear an oath of allegiance to protect lives. Lawyers, you know, lawyers. Processes, gets involved in a process in which elections are rigged. You know, defense lawyers, when you go to defend a killer, that is understandable, you know. You know, you want to go and defend your client, you know. But look at what's average magistrate without seeking for dubious monies and shortcuts. So I think Semakade's message was very clear. Turning the table was not standing up, comrade. Turning the table was back. You look at and I don't want to every time so like bring my case, but let me just use it as an example. You know, you have a matter of a judicial review in court, something that should take 6 months, where somebody is ruled against by a high court, and you journalists continue to talk, and lawyers look on the other side. Matter goes to Court of Appeal, and people look the other side. Matter goes to Supreme Court, and people look the other side. I visited a very, or to publicize most of these other things. The gentleman told me that, he was very pleased that I went to him informally, rather than actually writing to him or making a public complaint. It still took nearly 1 year. The guy never came back to me. Now, this is not only a senior lawyer, but a senior public official, senior judicial officer. So these are the kind of things that Semakade was talking
about. But he says that that approach that Council Semakade is bringing may actually undermine his work.
No.
In fact, it was also something that he hinted on.
It cannot. Because there's something in this country that I find interesting. I think this regime's longevity in power has deliberately created a situation in which people think that, to the extent that even when you say no, you're being oppositionist. And when you're oppositionist, it's almost like a crime.
That's why they say, how can you meet Awich?
Look, indeed, look. Trade unionism, which is part of really what this, an association that serves the interests of a professional body. Those usually tend to be, from an ideological perspective, generally progressively left-leaning thinkers, people who want to seek for justice. People who come from that kind of background don't like impunity. People who come from that background don't like corruption. People who come from that kind of background will normally be people who want to see justice, fairness, and equity play. So normally for areas in such a manner that they want to retain the professional integrity of their trades and professions and organizations, but at the same time making sure that those that they train for and that they swore allegiance for, are not undermined. And so therefore, when their members go down there, they go down there to basically represent their interests. How do you go through a judge who actually takes a bribe? How do you consider that a lawyer goes on to take a bribe? In fact, in my case, one of the things I said in a public statement, I was taunting, okay, I'll use this one. I was taunting Walubiri, that Walubiri is a lawyer. How can he be a lawyer and then you go and drink elections, mainly internationally, the UPC? How can the person who's the chairperson of my electoral commission be a lawyer, and then you see, these things being rigged in the office in which you're, and then you let it continue. How could you know that a matter came from court and say, you guys go back and carry out the exercise properly, and then you come and don't do it? This is the kind of thing that CAADS is saying, that look, if you're a lawyer, you should play by the rules. But in any case, basically to emphasize the point which said that a law society is an associate lawyer who's taken, who's trained lawyer, or somebody who's a qualified lawyer. So training, qualification, and conduct of lawyers. Okay. So conduct of lawyers means a lawyer from the protect everyone's rights to have access to justice. Why this is actually important, and that why I found CAADS very interesting. The Law Society, in terms of what Comrade Rich is saying, amongst everything else, the publications, Comrade Rich, you talk about, they should normally a judicial challenge, a judicial issue, something challenging the public, or perhaps a lacuna that they bring out so that legislators look at and then run with it. But most importantly, a law society position generally should be matter. That's what it should be. That is, in my opinion, how important it is. Now, when you see, and you sort of nearly contradicted yourself, when you see a teachers' union, instead of advocating for teachers' rights, they're blaming teachers for complaining, not going to go in the class. You should know that they've been compromised.
Let's start from there, sir. Yeah. You're still watching the Hotline Show. We have a couple of minutes to end this particular discussion. Sure. And of course, we're talking about the role of the Uganda Law Society in promoting good governance in this country. Please continue sending in some of your messages, questions, and I'll be reading them subsequently. Let me come to the lawyer in the house today. So I have two questions, and I've seen you noting a couple of responses. But as you respond to those issues, was too much. Where should he stop?
No, too much. It was awkward.
Is this something that is legal? Is it okay? From your perspective, how does the Attorney General fit into this discussion?
Indeed, it is what I've noted down. It's good you have asked it. I had noted down here a bar association. I'd noted down Attorney General. So it is what I'd actually noted down.
Right.
So Attorney General in this equation is that is the head of bar. Maybe I should have started by saying there are two things in legal practice. There's the bar and the bench. The bench, like a bench you use in a classroom in churches, the bench here is referred to judicial officers. The bar is referred to the advocates. So Uganda Law Society deals with the bar mostly, not the bench. Therefore, of course, by influencing rule of law, they would indirectly influence the bench. But the legal jurisdiction are on the bar. Now, again, ideally, it is said, Attorney General is the head of the bar. Is the head of the bar in that is the most senior bar member. Why? Because he represents a client called the government. And there are multiple. So even by chambers alone, what you call Attorney General's chambers, you could even talk of chambers of Sempewa and Professor Sempewa's chambers. Now, if you talk of Professor Sempewa's chambers, you are talking of a group of lawyers in that chambers. Now, if you talk of Attorney General's chambers, you are meaning the advocates who are there, and there are many. Lately, it has even incorporated state attorneys who are practicing in courts. I mean, prosecutors. But ideally, we have been looking at the ones who are doing in the civil aspect, who are under Attorney General's chambers directly. So that alone is a big group of people in these chambers. These days, they even have regional office for Attorney General in Gulu, in Fort Fortal, in fact in Fort Fortal, and son there, or relative who is the one in Fort Fortal. So Attorney General is the head of the bar. But also you have a Uganda Law Society provided for under the Act. And to that extent, Attorney General is called senior counsel. When any advocate meets him in court, Attorney General in person, they start with his case because he's a senior counsel. He's given respect. Now, I think the Attorney General, I can't say for a fact what he did in this campaign, but everybody seems to say he did something. I don't know if
yes.
you, for example, what did he do?
We can call him a campaign manager or a leader of opposition for Semakande.
Did you see him campaign?
Oh, yes.
I don't know how you define campaigning, but you trying to rally people to support your candidate, I would term that as campaigning.
Did he do that?
I
Yes.
think he did.
How? You think or you saw?
No, he did, including providing funds for...
Do you have evidence?
No, it was there, my friend. Yeah, the evidence is there. Evidence is.
We should differentiate rumors from this. But me, all I know is that as head of the bar, he had the right to go and vote, and he went for voting.
If only he did that, but
He
anyway.
went for voting, just like in fact, for me, as an advocate, not as a member of an NRM party, I even supported the other candidate. I even wear his T-shirt, and that was okay for me. But for Attorney General, he went as head of bar and he went to vote. So I just wanted to bring out the role of Attorney General as leader of the bar and also his individual right as a voter. Again, I want to say this. You see, Semakande kind of box whoever is in the establishment into a defense automatically. Remember, he was the first to throw a stone. At no point did the government or did anybody in the establishment come to oppose Semakande's candidature. But it is him who came with the poster of anti-establishment. So he automatically boxed whoever was in the establishment to guard. And that is, I think, what brings out the Attorney General. It is on record, Semakande's campaign strategy could clearly be seen as the first person to throw a stone. He came up against the establishment. So automatically, the pro-establishment found themselves boxed and had to raise a resistance. And especially when we thought that it was uncouth for a noble profession. Actually, ideally, what I saw in Semakande's campaign, I even feel sorry for those who voted, is like he intimidated, provoked, and forced you into voting for him. And he got it.
Forced?
Look at what happened in Makere. I think that is what he was citing. So I was like, come on, do you persuade me to vote for you? Or do you actually intimidate and force me to voting for you?
Why
This
after
is
the
posture.
intimidation they still vote him?
That is what I'm wondering.
Maybe it's
how
their
people
issue.
really-
Maybe it's
people work.
that's the issue.
So, how the Attorney General came into this equation is because of the anti-establishment sentiment that Semakade said.
comment
So to me, he threw the first stone,
Okay.
and the pro-establishment just ran into defense.
Okay.
I believe I've handled the issue of the Attorney General. The other thing you ask is the new establishment calling themselves Bar
Uganda
Association.
Bar Association.
I must admit, I also saw it from the social media. But I was thinking about it is that if this thing came about, I think somebody is just coming under the provision of the constitution, the Ugandan constitution, which provides for freedom of association. And therefore, the congressman knows it. When we were going for referendum, they used to tell us that, you know, we are free to associate. So let political parties come because it is freedom of association. But some of us were asking, come on, you are free to associate. But if you are free to associate to take over power, to rule me, then that freedom of association is rather unique. Because the multi-party came back on the multi-party came back on the assumption that we are free to associate. We are free to, I said, if you are free to associate, especially this association, which will, you are free to associate and you rule us, then that association is unique. So these people, the Uganda Bar Association, I think they're coming from the background that the constitution grants anybody to associate. So they're saying, if I'm an advocate, Okuruti is an advocate, Tumwesije is an advocate, Okello is an advocate, Karang is an advocate, are we not free to associate? So that is the background they are coming. But unfortunately, it is coming at a background where somebody has just won a controversial election. So somebody, controversial in a sense that it drew a lot of attention. For example, I wanted to say, I have noted it down, that when I went to Munyonyo, all the senior lawyers were there. For example, Ben Wacha. Ben Wacha is over 70 years. I found Ben Wacha on the queue.
Fantastic guy, yes.
So, why I'm calling it controversy, maybe I withdraw the word, but it is an election which drew a lot of interest.
Okay, but
so that's what I'm saying.
But let's look at it from a perspective, a bigger perspective, because there are some lawyers who are saying, advocates that are not going to work with Council Semakade. Is that something that is possible?
That's very concerning. We should,
Some lawyers saying they cannot work with Semakade, their president, the new president. And that's why they are bringing up this association.
Okay,
exactly,
for example,
that's what I'm asking them.
I didn't support Semakade, but to head the executives.
Okay.
He's heading the executives. And the law says after we have elected, I fall back in my chambers. I have nothing to do with it. Even if I sit in my chambers in Arua or in Naguru, the man is already, I'm working with him. I'm saying
conclude, sir.
The formation of this association, why it draws attention, is that it has come after a contested or an election of the law society which drew a lot of interest. Normally, even senior lawyers don't go for the election, for the voting. But now they go because even there's a provision, enough time for the points, even over. So, I know you wanted to...
I want to come to Charles.
But I want to say one last thing. That whatever, whether I support Semakade or not, I still believe Congress that democracy won. So if tomorrow you come and tell me that no, this is a democracy. So democracy has
they try to fudge it, but anyway.
because I know your chairperson not to be a man who knows how to deal with losing. He doesn't. Every time he loses, the chairperson always has a problem. So let me come to you. Some people have said Semakade will shine out. He's going to shine out. This is just something that people are just excited. Fail to come to the ghetto will come to those offices. Are we seeing someone rising from somewhere to a power of presidency, or to a place of power?
Why question is already answered about Bashir.
First of all, you shouldn't associate Semakade with the ghetto. Having Rastafarian hair doesn't mean that he's from the ghetto. He's not.
That's not very Rastafarian. But anyway,
He's not. He's up there. Number two, Semakade, I think he knew what he wanted so many years ago. And he has been working for it.
Okay.
Because I remember every time journalists would protest on the streets, he would be part of them and in the lead, even though he wasn't a journalist. But of course, he presented himself as an activist who was protesting for freedom of speech. So as early as so many years ago, Semakade knew that at some point he would vie for this position. Number three, he has run an organization successfully. Legal Brains Trust, really, from scratch. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
And he has done some commendable work. I have seen some of his colleagues accuse him of not accounting for the monies given to him. But I think that is just blackmail. They should focus on their own work and focus on their own issues.
Okay.
Me, I really have no problem with Semakade. The times demand that this is the new approach, and this is what we need as a country, so that some people can begin listening to the ordinary man. If we can get 100 Semakades in different places, I'm very sure things are likely to change a lot. But also I wish to add that I think his conflict with Attorney General is personal. It is personal because just a few weeks before he rolled into his campaigns, you remember he dragged the Attorney General over to court. I read a list of charges Attorney General, so there is a conflict of interest. And I started asking, but probably he has a point. If for instance, I am a bank manager, because at the end of the day, I'm the one also paying my company. And these are issues that we have to interrogate as Ugandans. So it became really bitter between the two, which is very healthy and good for this country. Because if you find a president of Uganda Law Society in bed with the powers that be, then there is a problem.
Like it has been the case.
Like it has been the case. Actually, since Chinobe took over, Chinobe, Fiona Wall,
yes.
the one in water, national water, and Bernard Oundo. Feel it. You do feel law society. You understand? So it is also very wrong to find leaders of these professional organizations in bed with the powers that be. Always. And therefore, we are not saying that the Uganda Law Society should be combative, that it should position mechanism to make government account for their actions. That is what we want. And if Semakade can deliver that, me as Charles and the ordinary Ugandans, we have no problem.
Okay. I'm going to give these last 4 minutes to you, Honorable Ochieno, to close this conversation and just paint a picture for us this next cycle for Semakade and the Uganda Law Society. How does it look like? How better can they approach this particular?
I don't know, but I hope it's going to be excellent, because it's also true that, as Charles said, that Semakade is an extremely excellent advocate. Extremely clever, O-level, amongst the best in the country, extremely clever, A-level, amongst the best in the country, and he did fantastically so at both law school and LDC. And then, of course, since then, he has been going through. But Semakande also told the people that there is this thing called radical versus the other, you know? The definition of radical in this country is massively undermined. You know, radical is a very constructive word, and actually in political science terms is actually a progressive term. For example, Semakade talks about anti-imperialism. Which average African lawyer is not willing to join me as a campaign for Haiti to reclaim its lost wealth following their independence and the continued economic rep of that country by France? Which average Ugandan lawyer does not want to support what I'm doing as Joseph Ochieno and did Comrade Awich, because there we met somewhere in supporting anti-apartheid movements in Southern Africa, and so therefore to sue, you know, those apartheid-related companies, including banks, that fueled money to support apartheid. That's what Semakadis talk about. And which other average Ugandan lawyer is that one that does not want to join me when I want to sue Mr. Museveni and the state for making sure that they give 500 billion to local construction rather than to our local hospitals? That is what they should do. The law association is an association for excellence in law. The guys who should go ahead to critique, and then they should go ahead and meet with Supreme Court justices and seek to give them, if you like, the mini final opinion, because they represent the body polity of the entirety of the legal brains in this country, including those from the other end who are, in this case, from the bench, as Comrade Awich says. Okay. You know, which average lawyer, which average Ugandan would not be interested in questioning or being very impressed that a new president of the Law Society is questioning the rationale of having a wig, this terrible fun to do things, you know, that judges and, you know, have got to put on, and lawyers go to put on those funny wigs down there, which average lawyers don't actually possibly will not tell you why we should be putting on wigs of British lords of all those kind of. Yes. They're going towards those things. Those are the things. Okay, so that's what Semakadis talk about. So we basically want to bring this back here. And in any case, actually, some of his commitments, some of the manifesto simply said that no, we want to bring the law back to the people. As you conclude, sir. You know, so no, I really hope that, and I'll be delighted to continue working with Semakade and to support Semakade and to guide Semakade, including when it comes to matters of public opinion, to make sure that Semakade helps the legal body to be able to make sure that this body does the job that it's supposed to be able to do. In any case, you know, possibly Mr. Museveni will want a situation in which there's Uganda, in which there's a rule of the law. And if they want a rule of the law, at the moment, the rule of the law is absolutely absent. I think beyond Semakade, we're going to be having a possibility of rule of law. Well, best wishes to Semakade.
Thank you, sir. When we have a rule of law, Lukwago will be very happy. Very, very happy. Sir, your parting shot.
My parting shot is that now that we give the Semakade his power and he won the election, yes, I'm told he has I didn't know him personally, I'm told he has a brilliant background. He went to supposedly good school, although he was in Kasubi, although those of us who went to Ntare think the only school is Ntare anyway. But I'm told he went to good school. And he has been
and did very well
representing other people. So, I have no problem with Semakade, president of Law Society. Okay. And I will hope, being a lawyer, will act within the law. As I've stated to you the roles, these roles, it would barely put you in conflict with the government unless you deliberately fall out of it. So I have no problem. Good luck for it.
All right, thank you. Your parting shot, sir.
Well, I think as Semakade takes over the leadership of Uganda Law Society, on his first agenda, they should look at whether it is possible to have an elected Attorney General. Yes.
He wants to remove the position of Attorney
No,
General and Chief Justice.
The Attorney General went for him. Then he wanted his neck. So they should sit down as
It's
lawyers
him who wanted the neck of the Attorney General.
and look at a flexible law
Okay.
to find out whether we can have an elected Attorney General. Other countries
For him,
have.
he wants the Attorney General gone and the Chief Justice as well.
Maybe he feels the current Attorney General is incompetent.
Okay.
It's too Kardashian.
All right. Thank you so much, Charles. Of course, thank you so much, Honorable Ochieno, and thank you so much, Honorable Pollar, Awich from the NRM. And of course, a special thank you to our viewers who have been watching us from the time we started at exactly 7 p.m. It's 9 p.m., so thank you so much for tuning in. You can watch this video again on our social media platforms at The Alternative Uganda, at Digitalk TV, that is on Facebook,